Okay, so basically, this is a walkthrough on investment tools, different types of strategies, and different types of investment methods. What you can adopt overall to enhance your portfolio and to create a long-term wealth generation. We are not going to talk about some kind of trading tactics where I'll be telling you how to do technical analysis, but I'll be basically discussing about what should be your long term goals and how in the long term you can basically create a good amount of wealth by investing small amounts of money over the period of time. Starting with some types of investments, basically, we have a few major players that we already know about. I'm not sure, what is the level of the understanding each of you have in the investment world, but I'll start from the beginning. So basically, there are two major types, that is equity and debt. So basically, if a company wants to raise funds, um, what they can do is they can basically can you hear me, guys? Hello?
Yes, yes, very clear.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
sir.
Yeah, okay, great. So if a company wants to raise funds, typically they can do it by two methods. One is by diluting their ownership, that is the equity, that is the stock market which we have currently. And the other side is the loanership, or we can call it a debt raise, debt capital. In debt capital, what the company does is it borrows money either from a bank or from individuals like you and me, or a lot of other methods how a company or how a person can borrow, lend money. um, Major difference between the debt and equity is, in debt your percentage of returns is fixed at the start of the tenure. So let's say, for example, a company comes up to me and tells me, Krishna, I want 10 lakh rupees. I will give you a debenture which is a face value of maybe 10 rupees, and I will basically get 1 lakh units of debentures from that company, and they will decide that the fixed rate of interest every year on year they will pay me is somewhere around 8 to 11%. So you can see over here it's around 8 to 11%. One second, someone's joined the meeting. Okay, so hi guys, those of you who just joined, we've already started. I'm so sorry, but so far we've discussed two things. We've discussed equity and debt. Equity basically is ownership of of the company. A company can raise capital in two ways. One is equity and one is debt. The equity means that they are diluting their. For 1 second, someone else is also joining. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so equity is basically diluting their ownership. So you become a part owner. Equity is basically the stock market, and debt is basically loanership. So the company can loan money from someone, and they can basically raise capital. We also have gold, real estate, cryptos. Let's talk about gold for now, which everyone knows. We'll just cover up gold first. I have this slide over here for gold. So there are three major forms of gold investment currently, which everyone knows. That one is physical gold, which everyone buys. But when you are buying a physical gold, you basically lose out to 14 to 25% on gold making charges. Okay, and plus GST. One way to avoid that, if you want to make investments in gold, is buying digital form of gold, where a lot of Paytm Gold and a lot of other companies like Tanish also have come up with some different kinds of gold where you can buy digitally. One more very interesting this is about sovereign gold bonds. So this gold bond is by the RBI, where you can buy a certain amount of gold, and the gold will be kept in your digital wallet or your locker in the demat account. Okay, so let's say, for example, you bought 1 gram or 10 grams of gold from sovereign gold bond, there are two conditions. One is you have a 8-year lock-in period, which will have zero capital gain appreciation at the end of the 8-year tenure, and you will also get 2.5% extra year on year. So today if you buy gold, you get 0 rupees extra, apart from the price which is appreciating, you get 0 rupees extra. But in sovereign gold bond, you will get 2.5% extra year on year, on above the investment which you've made. So it will come directly to your bank account. Okay. Two three things when you should, whenever you're buying gold, you should always check the purity, and purity can be calculated by, say for example, 22%, so 22 karat gold and 24 karat gold. So 24 karat gold is basically 100% gold. So how much percent is 22 karat? So 22 karat is basically 91.66% gold. So that is the amount which should, 91.6% of the amount you should be paying for the gold, basically, and plus some GST and making charges. Never pay more than 6 to 7% GST charge per gram. If anyone is charging you more than 6 to 7%, you can negotiate and maybe don't buy from that shop. So the takeaway is never pay more than 6 to 7%, max to max 8% per gram on making charges. Do we have any questions over here for gold? Okay, so we'll move on. Okay, talking about, one second, there's someone. Okay, we'll move on to the next segment, that is, we'll first talk about debt, and then we'll move on to mutual funds. Debt is basically, like I told you, it's like a loanership. The company or someone, you loan the money to someone and you get a fixed rate of interest, and it is the safest form of investment. Irrelevant of the company gets diluted, gets shut down, or whatever happens to that company, you will get your principal amount back, and you will get your money, which is basically how much of a percentage has been decided at the start of your tenure, that much you will get back. If, say for example, if you have a debenture, that is a debt fund of Reliance company, and I also have 10 debentures, I have 10 equities also, that is the share which I have. First, when the company is getting diluted, first the company will pay to the debt and the debenture holders. First the company clears out debts, so it's a much more safer option to go with. Then if the money is left, then they will start paying the equity holders, then they'll start paying the shareholders the money. That's how the thing goes. That is why debt is basically safer, and eventually it's a little, it gives a little lesser rate of returns, but eventually basically your money is much safer. Okay. In real estate and trust fund, so basically real estate, everyone knows what real estate is, right? So you can buy a property, but say for example, if you don't have enough money to buy the entire property, there is some new concept which is called REIT. So real estate infrastructure fund, it's called. What you can do is, let's say for example, a company like Kotak Bank has started a new REIT fund. Okay, what it does is it pools money from you and me and accumulates maybe 1000 crores, and then it starts to make two buildings in Bangalore, where it is dedicated for IT companies who can come in and basically set up their shop over there, right? So in REIT, you can buy a part of the real estate. So you can invest as low as 100 rupees or whatever the unit share price is. So you can search for REIT and basically get a part of a real estate. Now you get paid by rent income. So whatever rent income is generated by the fund, 95% of the rent income has to be distributed to the REIT owner, like you and me, whoever has invested, right? So Basically, REIT is another way of investing in real estate without you having to put in a lot of capital. A lot of REIT funds in the market are currently investing in uh, maybe infrastructure projects, or some, like, company which is coming up, some or like, some kind of um, like a IT park, let's say, for example, a IT park in Singapore, or something like that. So REITs can be like, very fruitful, like, alternative for you also. INVT is basically infrastructure fund, which is also basically for developing the infrastructure of the country. So there is a fund which is basically drawn by the pool of people, and that fund is basically goes into like, developing the infrastructure of a certain company or a certain government. Okay, so apart from that, let's talk about mutual funds, the most hottest subject over here right now. In the mutual fund category, what we have seen: equity, debt, gold, real estate, trust funds, everything can come under mutual funds. Everything can come under mutual fund. So what is basically a mutual fund? A mutual fund is basically a pool of money which is derived from you and me. A asset management company is basically someone like ICICI or HDFC. They are an asset management company. The fund, the pool of money goes to them, and now they decide by their fund managers where this, say for example, they've collected 1000 crores, right? So now they decide with the pool of money which they have where they want to put it. So there are different kinds of mutual funds. So there is equity, that is the stocks. There is fund of fund, so we'll talk about that later. There is debt, and then there is hybrid. Okay, let's say for example, if a fund is a equity fund, which is basically, let me show you an example of a nice fund which I have invested in. So this is the ICICI Technology Fund which I have invested in. So what it does is, it has taken a pool of money from a lot of people and decided to invest only in technology funds, like technology companies like Infosys, HCL, and other companies like that. One second, let me. Okay. So over here you can see this is the fund, ICICI Technology Growth Fund. Okay, the NAV is basically the unit price of that particular fund. Okay, this is the NAV of this fund. This is the growth of the NAV in maybe 2000. This fund started off in 2020, maybe, or maybe a little, I don't know. Okay, one second. Yeah, it started in, it started in 2000, this fund, and it's been growing. It started with the NAV of not sure, around 5 rupees, right? One second, over here, NAV, yeah, NAV is 6 rupees, 7 rupees, 9 rupees was the NAV when it started. Okay, and it's grown ever since, right? So now let's talk about what kind of companies has this fund invested in. So let's say for example you put 10,000 rupees in this mutual fund. Okay, a part of it will go to Infosys, Tata Consultancy, Tech Mahindra, HCL, and other such companies. What is the percentage of holding in each is, you can see over here. So 17% of the entire fund amount has been dedicated to Infosys. So if, say for example, the entire fund is for 10,000 crores, then 17% of the 10,000 crores is invested with Infosys. And in such a way, IRCTC 2.45% is invested. And you can also see the different kinds of industry this particular company is in. so computer softwares and telecom service. So Airtel is in telecom, so telecom, and so on and so forth. So this is one kind of fund which you basically can find. So this is a purely equity driven fund. Okay, purely equity. All the investments are done in equity. A fund of fund is basically, there is one mutual fund which is already, let's say for example, the this fund which you spoke about. If say for example there's another fund which will start, and which will be a fund of fund for ICICI Technology Fund, so they will invest their entire money in the fund of fund. So this basically happens when there is a mutual fund which is abroad, which is in America, and India wants to invest in that mutual fund which is in America, so they can't do it directly, so they will have to do it via a fund of fund. So India will, in India, Kotak Mahindra Bank will launch a fund of fund for DSP mutual fund which is there in America. So that is basically fund of fund. A hybrid, so let's talk about debt fund before we talk about the hybrid fund. So a debt fund is basically similar to it is basically a loanership, and a pool of money goes inside, divided between different kinds of debt funds. So they can maybe purchase some debentures, maybe some post office funds, maybe some national savings certificate. They have some money in the bank, they have some PPF money which they have invested. So that is what debt fund is. So you can also invest in some debt funds. So I'll show you an example of debt fund. So this is HDFC Liquid Direct Plan. So this is just the one name of it. There are hundreds of different types of funds. So you can see the steady growth which this has given over the years. Okay, now let's compare it with, let's compare it with this. In the last 3 years, look at this different types of ups and downs which this fund has seen. Now the total return is 37% on this fund for the last 3 years. But you can see this Corona time where this fund had dipped significantly, but then it rose back again. On the other hand, this is the 3 year plan for this fund. It has only given an annualized return for 5%, but there has been no fluctuation in this. So this is where a debt fund also comes into play for you. So there are some debt funds in the market, there are some equity funds in the market, and then there are some hybrid funds in the market. Okay, where there is a mix of equity and debt. Okay, so a fund maybe dedicate half of the funds to equity and half of the funds to debt. Obviously your return will be little lesser than equity, but it is eventually little more safer. Okay, that's how this is. And the another type of mutual fund is the ELSS mutual fund. Okay, ELSS basically is a tax saving mutual fund. It comes under 80C. So some ELSS mutual funds are, um, one second, let me just see if this is the right fund which I've opened. Okay, so this is the Canara Robeco Equity Tax Saver Fund. Okay, This is also a equity fund. Now you can see, go down and see what kind of holdings do they have. So they have 55 different types of holdings: Infosys, HDFC, ICICI, right? But this has a lock-in period for 3 years. So let's say, for example, if you put 50,000 rupees today, this 50,000 will be tax exempted. So let's say, for example, if you had to pay 60,000 worth of tax in this entire year, and you decide to invest 60,000 in this fund over here, you will have to pay zero tax. But you cannot withdraw that amount for the next 3 years. But this fund basically gives a good return. ELSS funds are a very good option when anyone wants to have a good return also, and a tax benefit also, because all the other tax benefit which we have is basically in the form of PPF, which is basically 7%. But you can see over here, this has given 60% returns in the last 1 year. But on the other hand, PPF would have given you only 7% returns. So this is clearly a better winner over here, and this fund could have given you much better opportunity to grow your money, right? So ELSS fund basically has a limit of 1.5 lakhs. So you can only invest up till 1.5 lakhs over here, not more than that. If you invest anything more than that, then you will not get tax benefit, but you will be bound by 3 years lock-in period. Okay, so we'll just take a small break over here for asking any questions if anyone has, and I'll address any questions up till now, whatever I have spoken. Guys? Hello?
No questions.
Okay, great. Am I going too fast? Is it okay for everyone? Just want some feedback over here. Is it okay? I mean, the pace.
Seems good.
Okay, fine, great. So, okay, moving ahead. There are two types of. Everyone must have heard of SIPs, right? So there are two types of there. One is SIP and one is lump sum. So basically, you can invest in through a mutual fund. In a mutual fund through a SIP, that is systematic investment plan. You can have maybe every monthly, every 6 monthly, every year, every yearly, every weekly. Even some funds even have a daily SIP, which you can do for maybe 100 rupees, 200 rupees in a day. That is also something which is possible. So SIP basically gives you a good return eventually, but you can do your own research about the fund whichever is there in the market. This is the SIP calculator. So one second. There's this SIP calculator over here. Yeah. So if, say for example, if you put 5,000 rupees per month over the past 5 years, this is what you would have invested value would have been 3 lakhs, and this is what you would have got. That is plus almost 83% of your investment. So it keeps compounding the SIP, right? Okay. Furthermore, let's talk about debt funds. Basically, debt fund, this is NPS, so National Pension Scheme. This over and above the 1.5 lakh rupees which you are exempted in the ATC, over and above that, you get a 50,000 rupees additional tax exemption. So let's say for example, if your yearly income is 7 lakhs, okay, 5 lakhs exempted, so you have to pay tax on 2 lakhs. 1.5 lakh rupee you have invested in ELSS, but you still have to pay 50,000 rupees. On 50,000 rupees you have to still pay around 10% tax. If you want to avoid that also, you can basically invest it in NPS, but you will not be able to withdraw that money up until you are 60 years old. So this is basically a national pension scheme which gives a very good return of 12%. In debt fund, basically you don't get so much returns. It is very safe, it is by the government, and it gives you a consistent return of 10 to 12%. And you can save additional 50,000 rupees in the under the Act of 80 CCD. Okay. Debentures is basically, as I spoke to you about debentures, a company basically just like shares. It comes up with debentures, and it can give you fixed returns depending upon whatever they have decided. It's usually between 8 to 12%. It depends upon the company to company, whichever whatever they want. And why the company does not go to the bank? Because the bank charges them around 12% or 13% interest, whereas if they come up with debentures, they give us only 8 to 12%. So that's how they get benefit from introducing debentures to the market. Then there's this post office fund. It's just like a saving account, but it's a very low return, 6.6%. National savings certificate are some kinds, 6.8%. Bank deposits usually give us 4%. PPF is a very good option for 80C. Over here you get 7.1%, and EPF is another very good option. You can also basically I'm not sure if this is the option with Lena AI currently, but in my previous organization, what you can do is you can tell your employer, I want to pay more EPF. I want more EPF to be deducted from my salary, and that is something which you can do, and that will be in the EPF form, and you will get a better return than the PPF in this. I already spoke about the mutual fund part for the debt funds. Okay. Uh, okay. So then we'll move on to the next slide. The next slide is basically
Krishna,
yeah.
Krishna, sorry to stop you here.
Yeah. Tell me.
I just wanted to confirm if you're recording this session because we are getting some comments in the messages section.
Okay, 1 second. I've not checked the comments. Okay, yeah, I am recording this actually. Let me just check. Yeah, it is getting recorded.
Perfect. You may continue.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so diversification, guys, is the key. Now I've told you about so many funds, so many different types of things, like where you can invest, but diversification is the key. Now you should not put all your eggs in one basket, but where should you invest, and how much percentage of money should be invested in what kind of fund is the next big question. Okay, so if we talk about equity, this is a golden rule which says 100 minus your age is equals to equity investments. So let's say, for example, if you are investing 50,000 rupees in a month, and my age is let's say, for example, 30 right now. So 70% of this 50,000, that is 35,000 rupees, I should technically be investing in the equity market, that is the share market, either in the terms of directly buying the share of the company from the stock market, or you can either put it into equity mutual fund which is there in the market currently. Okay. This is the risk and return trade-off, giving you a fair comparison of how much returns you can expect investing in different strategies. I'll just give you a minute to go through this. So currently we spoke about real estate, mutual fund, debt funds, equity mutual fund we spoke about, shares we've spoken about, derivatives I will speak about later. Debentures is something we spoke about, national savings certificate, PF, bond, and gold. So this is the risk to return trade-off. Basically, the higher the risk, the better the rewards, is the takeaway from this. There are some thumb rules. Okay, this is something which I go by, and this is something which I think are kind of thumb rules for everyone also. 20% of your income should be invested on a monthly basis for sure. So whatever income you are doing, drawing, at least 20% set it aside and invest it. Not just save it, but invest it. You can be saving 40%, but you should be investing at least 20% of what you are currently making. The Graham number basically tells you what is a overpriced and underpriced stock currently. We'll talk about that a little later, maybe in the next session, because it's a little lengthy to talk about the Graham number. We already spoke about age minus 100, that is the percentage of equity investments. This is a good rule of 72, which basically tells you in how many years will your money double. So let's say, for example, we saw this fund which we saw this fund which gave 60% returns in 1 year. Okay, so according to this rule 72, in how much time will my money would have become double in this fund? So 72 divided by 60.5, it is equals to 1.1 years, 1.2 years. So in 1.2 years my money would have become double, right? So this is the rule of 72 which you should apply. FD gives you 7%, so it takes 10 years to double your money. On the other hand, if you do it, if you invest in a normal fund, normal equity fund or a mutual fund which gives you an average returns of around 11 to 20%, it will vary from 6.5 years, and if it's 20%, then it can go up to 3 to 4 years also. Okay, so this is how you can calculate. The rule of 72 is very important. You can just calculate how much time will it take to double your money. Some more golden rules are: invest regularly, invest early, invest for short term and not long term, and controlling your expenses is one of the key ways how you can become rich eventually. Okay, so keep a close eye on your expenses, and whatever you save, try to invest that money. We already spoke about this slide. Basically, this slide gives you a structure of what the mutual fund industry is and how basically a mutual fund is distributed. So it starts from the investor. Investor brings in a pool of money to the mutual fund. This is the pool of money. Okay, investor gives the money to the mutual fund. Asset management companies like HDFC, Kotak Mahindra Bank, and some other asset management companies also include PMIC, which is recently started and they're doing really good. Some Parag Parekh is also one of the good asset management companies which are not traditionally known to everyone, but they give good returns. And basically after this is this registrar and transfer agent. So if someone must have heard about CAMS, CAMS. So they are the one who basically are the like SEBI is for stock market. CAMS is basically for the mutual fund industry. It also regulates. SEBI is also basically a part of the mutual fund industry, but CAMS is the one who actually does the trading and buying and selling officially for you on behalf of the asset management company. Then there are the bankers. Then fund managers are basically the people who manage the fund. So as in the other previously we saw this where one second, we saw this, right? So this company has different types of holdings. Now it is the fund manager's decision if he wants to sell off his entire share of Infosys and put it into Axis Bank. It is his choice. Okay, he will take strategic decisions in the welfare of the fund, where he can decrease and increase the percentage of his holdings in a particular fund. So that person is very important fund manager. And we spoke about lump sum and SIP investments. Basically, lump sum investments are one-time investments. SIPs are staggered investments. You can do for weekly, quarterly, daily basis also nowadays. There are different types of mutual funds. Over here, we already spoken about debt fund, equity, and hybrid fund. Right? Hybrid fund is a mix of equity and debt. Debt fund is only debts, like the liquid fund which I showed you. Equity is basically the equity fund also, which we spoke about. And the structure of the mutual fund, basically earlier we used to have closed-ended funds, interval funds also, but nowadays 99% of the funds which are there in the market are open-ended. That means you can enter the fund anytime and exit the fund anytime. Okay. Passive and active funds. This is interesting because active fund is something which is like a normal fund, which is something like this, which can be actively traded and plus minus, and like keep the fund manager keeps shuffling the funds and keeps adding new stocks and keeps removing some old stocks whichever basically he does not feel the need. Like earlier I saw that Ultratech Cement was 2.5%, so now it's reduced to 0.9%. So that fluctuation is something which the fund manager keeps doing. So this is called an active fund. A passive fund is something which is called a index fund. Now this is something which is very interesting. So there is something called as index fund. So does everyone know about what index is? One second, is someone. Hello. Yeah. So so this is basically the passive fund is basically a fund like a index fund. Basically, what it does is, so let's say for example Sensex and Nifty. There are two different indices which are there in the market currently. Okay. Now Sensex has 30 different stocks in its portfolio, and Nifty has 50 different stocks in its portfolio. What this passive fund does is it basically invests in, so this fund basically invests in all the Sensex companies, like this, Reliance Industries, HDFC, and in the same percentage as the index fund is there. So in the Nifty, in the Sensex fund, 11.8% is Reliance and 10.6% is HDFC. So they basically replicate the Sensex fund. That is something called as passive fund. It is a little safer option for someone out there who wants to invest in equity but also wants to play it a little safe. So you can see over here, this index fund in the past 1 year has given 51% return, which is actually pretty good. But over the 3 years it's given 16%. Any other fund which you can see which in over the 3 years it gives around 20%, 23%. So it's got a little lesser rate of return of investment, but it's a little more safer because it's the index fund, and these are the top large companies of the country which basically they invest in. So this is about the passive fund. Now how you should select a mutual fund, because there are hundreds of mutual fund in the market also currently. So there are regular plans and direct plans. Okay. In regular plans, this is usually in the case where a lot of people must be having some kind of mutual fund which they already hold through an agent. Okay. Now this agent basically charges a fees. Now this fees goes out of your pocket. So if you invest 10,000 rupees and the expense ratio, we'll talk about the expense ratio, but let's say for example expense ratio is 2%, 1% of your investment goes to the agent. In the direct mutual fund, you can invest directly in the fund and 0 rupees commission is charged. Is that clear? I mean, it's very simple. Do not go for regular funds, go for direct funds. You can go for funds directly by the company website, or you have different applications which I'll talk about a little later. There are two types of funds in the same fund. IDCW, which is a dividend withdrawal, and a growth. So basically a dividend withdrawal is, let's say for example there are these companies, right? So many companies, and all these companies do pay dividend, like Reliance also pays a lot of dividend, HDFC pays a lot of dividend, but you are not the shareholder. The shareholder is this fund. HDFC Index Sensex fund is the shareholder for this Reliance Industries. So the dividend goes to this fund. Now there are two options. Okay, you can either choose a fund which is called IDCW, which gives you a dividend withdrawal plan, which gives you the dividend as a check or as a, like, direct deposit in your account, um, or you can have a growth plan where your dividend is reinvested inside the fund. So it is upon you and upon your financial goals how and where you want to go for. I mean ID, CW, or the growth, whichever is more suitable for you. I personally prefer the growth because the dividend is very small, and basically the dividend also keeps on compounding. So that is one big advantage which you get if you invest in the IDCW. Sorry, in the direct growth plan. How do you select out of so many millions of mutual funds out there? How do you select which mutual fund you should go for? In whenever you open a mutual fund, you can always see this riskometer. Okay, so this starts from low, very low, moderate, high, high, and very high. Okay. It depends upon the kind of investments that fund has been doing. Um, and over here is something which you can see. This is a very high risk fund. Okay, you can also see this. One second. We just opened this Canara Robeco. One second. So over here you can see this riskometer. So it's a high risk, not a very high risk, but a little high risk. The CRISAL rating is 3. So you can also see the CRISAL rating. I've spoken about that over here. So expense. Okay, let's talk about the expense ratio. The expense ratio is basically the amount of money the fund managers charge you to trade. Okay, so the fund manager is employed, right? Is employed by you and me, who put in the money in the pool. His salary and some marketing activities also go in place. So there is a expense ratio which the fund has. Not able to see it over here, but one second. Okay, so this is the expense ratio. This looks something like this. So for a X fund, 0.3% is the expense ratio. Sometimes this expense ratio is 3%, 4% also. So you have to be very careful in terms of what is the expense ratio of the fund. Okay, and it should be lower. It should be as low as 1% or somewhere close to 1%, not more than that. Do a comparator analysis, because if, say for example, ICICI has come up with a technology fund, HDFC also comes up with a technology fund with a little bit of a variation, and you can always do a comparator analysis with the same kind of fund and see which one suits your needs better and which one has a better rate of return. The fund size is also very important. Sometimes a fund has recently been started and not a lot of fund capital has been accumulated. So you can basically see the past performance of the fund and see why people have not invested in it. Maybe there must be a problem with the fund manager. That is why people have not invested, or maybe the AMC is not known by some people. That is why also people don't invest. So fund size is also very important. The star rating which I mentioned, the star rating basically is this CRISAL rating, which gives you an picture of how well the fund is doing. You can do this peer comparison also. Over here you get this option in Grow. In Grow you get this option. You can do a peer comparison. Yeah, over here the expense ratio is 8.4. Okay, stamp duty, exit load. Okay, I'll talk about exit load also. Exit load is basically, let's say for example you put 10,000 rupees today and tomorrow you want to withdraw that fund. So there is this exit load which comes into picture. It depends on fund to fund. Let's see if this has an exit load. Okay, exit load is 1% if redeemed within 1 year. Okay, so you have to be careful about seeing the exit load also. Sometimes the exit load can be higher, so you should not invest in that. You can basically try for some other fund which has a lower exit load, or maybe nil exit load, like the fund which we just saw before this. Like the other fund which we saw did not have this nil exit load, so you can basically see the exit load and the tax implications also. Basically, like ELSS funds have some tax implications. So basically what happened was, when I started investing, I selected a ELSS fund which I did not know had this implication of 3 years lock-in period. So be very careful while you're investing, and see the tax implications also when it goes to investing into a certain mutual fund. And this riskometer basically you will find in every fund. Moderate and high and moderately high funds are basically, you can find that in hybrid fund. Typically a debt fund is a lower risk fund, so it comes under the green bracket. Equity fund is in the higher side of the bracket. And sometimes, like the technology fund we spoke about, it's a equity fund, but it is focused only on technology specific sectors, like India Mart and Infosys, HCL, right? It does not invest in pharma funds, right? So it is specific to technology. So let's say, for example, if tomorrow technology, let's say, for example, if tomorrow internet becomes very expensive tomorrow, the one market it will hit the most is the technology fund. So this fund will be very much impacted, but may not impact the pharma fund, right? So pharmaceutical, so the higher, if the fund is more sectorial, that's the right word to use. If it's more sectorial, it's a little higher risk. Okay. Now you can invest in different ways. You can have grow application, which I also use currently. Paytm mutual fund, ET money, IND money, different kinds of applications are there where you can invest your money. You can have all this information in one page. Like, see, exit load is nil. I am not sure which fund this was, but this has zero exit load. That means you can invest money today and remove it tomorrow. You will not be charged any money. Okay, so such funds are better to choose. Let's say, for example, how do you 1 second, there's someone. Yeah, so let's say, for example, you've done some loss in your okay, let's take a pause over here and ask some questions if anyone wants to. Any questions, anyone? Okay, so I'll just move ahead. Okay. um, let's say, for example, uh, you invested 10,000 rupees, or maybe 10 lakh rupees you invested. um, at this point, in February 18th, where the market was at the peak, 2020, you invested 10 lakh rupees, and suddenly it got a dip, and your money, you went into a big loss, and you lost like 15, 20, 30% of your money. So now your value is 7 lakhs, right? You've lost 3 lakh rupees. Now you can use this to realize your losses. So um, let's say for example, if you put 10 lakh rupees and you gained 2 lakh rupees, you will be taxed on this 2 lakh rupees, correct? But if you had made a loss, what you can do is you can book that loss. That means you put 10 lakh rupees over here, you got a loss, your 10 lakh became 7 lakhs, you booked a loss for 3 lakh rupees. Now you can keep this loss on your side, and in the next 8 years you can basically offset your losses so that you don't have to pay tax. So now, as I told you, you gain 2 lakh rupees, you will have to pay tax on 2 lakhs, but you can say, wait, I had actually lost 3 lakh rupees during the corona time, and I realized those offset those losses, and now I still have 1 lakh rupee loss, which I will not be able, which I will not be able, which I will not be taxed upon. I know it's a little complicated. I mean, I can take some questions over here if anyone wants to understand this a little better. Um,
How exactly is this done? I mean, the realization part.
Um, so what you can do, you can talk to your CA. Firstly, what you will have to do is, let's say for example, if you invested 10 lakh rupee over here at this point, you will have to remove the entire money over here, and you'll have to realize, you'll have to say कि हाँ मेरा 3 लाख रुपए का लॉस हुआ है. In the books of account, you'll have to show कि yes, you have made this loss of 3 lakh rupees. Now you can keep this 3 lakh rupees buffer in your side, and your CA will be able to better tell you how you have to offset your losses. But you can keep that aside, you can make a note of it, and in the next 8 years, whatever profit you make in your next mutual fund transactions can be offset with this, like that. So but you will have to remove that money. You can't keep it over there only. You will have to withdraw that entire fund, and you have to book that loss. If you did not withdraw it over here, if you did not withdraw it over here, and you continued invest, मतलब you just 10 लाख रुपए तक डाला, कुछ भी निकाला नहीं, नीचे गया, फिर ऊपर आया, इधर तक आया, नाउ तो प्रॉफिट हो गया इसका, बराबर. तो अभी कुछ भी नहीं होगा, यहाँ पे तुमने लॉस बुक नहीं किया. पर यहाँ पे तुमने अगर डाला, यहाँ पे तुमने अगर लॉस बुक किया एंड वही वापस डाला इधर से, लाइक सेम फंड में वापस डाला, then you can book. Now then when you remove the fund over here, you can book your loss. I mean, you can offset your loss, like that. Got it?
Okay, understood.
Yeah. So how exactly this should be done? You can ask your CA, okay, I want to offset my, I have made a loss of so much, so much. So it is also good to remove that money if you've made a loss, no? It's also good to remove that money, because eventually you know that you will recover that money. Okay. So there are some new offers in the market. We'll just wrap this up in some 5 minutes now, and anything else we'll take it in the next session, because we have a lot of things, other things also to discuss, especially for the stock market. Now we've discussed a lot about the mutual fund, but for the stock market and how to identify a good stock, how to identify which stock to buy, what is the undervalued stock, what is the overvalued stock, all of that we will be discussing in the next session. But for now, these are the new fund offer. Everyone must have heard about IPO. IPOs बहुत चल रहे हैं मार्केट में, right? So जैसे IPO होता है, same like that there is NFO. When a new mutual fund opens, let's say for example HDFC Bank starts with, now HDFC Bank sees that ICICI Technology Fund is doing brilliant. Now HDFC also wants to start with a new fund. So now it will launch a NFO saying that we are also launching a new fund which is in the space of technology fund, which will be a equity technology fund. But currently it does not disclose what will be its holdings. Once they receive the money, once they receive the pool of money, then they decide where they will invest. So I personally don't like NFOs, because before putting my money, I want to see where they will be investing my money in. So a existing fund is a little better. That's why I don't put my money in the NFO market. I choose a existing fund instead of putting my money in the NFO. On the other hand, IPOs are very nice. IPOs, everyone must have heard, IPOs giving 70, 80, 120% returns also, like Burger King, Zomato, and Clean Science. A lot of these funds have got almost 100% on the opening date. Sorry. FPO is something like IPO only, but let's say for example Reliance Industries, which is already listed, wants to die. So Mukesh Ambani wants to sell 3% of his share in the market. So it will be launched as a FPO. Okay. Offer for sale is like Zomato had Info Edge as its investor, and they had maybe 10% shares in Zomato. Okay. uh, OFS, offer for sale, is basically they selling their share in the market. It was some it's like that. So Info Edge basically diluted its share in the market, and Zomato also diluted some other shares from the other promoters in the market. So that was offer for sale plus initial public offer combined for the Zomato. Okay, so medical insurance is another type of good investment, because medical insurance is not just an expense for you, but it's actually an investment, because it will save you a lot of money, although it costs you a bomb in the start, but it will eventually save you a lot of money. So please go for a medical insurance, that is very important for you. Term insurance. Always, so term insurance, does anyone know the difference between term insurance and life insurance? Term insurance is basically, I'll just explain. Term insurance is basically, let's say for example I have a term insurance, I die tomorrow, I have a 50 crore term insurance, I die tomorrow, my family gets 50 crore rupees, as simple as that. That is called a term insurance. Never mix mutual fund and term insurance. Lot of LIC are there in the market, which is basically a mix of both, which is called ULIP, unit link investment program, something like that. And endowment scheme are total scam schemes. Never do that. Instead, buy a term insurance separately, and buy, so term insurance basically will cost you maybe 15-20,000 rupees for the entire year, and endowment cost you maybe 1 lakh rupee in the entire year. So buy 15,000 rupees worth of term insurance, and the other 85,000 rupees you invest in your mutual fund, whichever you choose. Don't let them choose the mutual fund, whatever they are choosing, because that is not very clear where they put your money. So you will never choose a ULIP plan or a endowment scheme. Whenever you hear this word, run away. Do not invest your money. We spoke about the sovereign gold bonds. This is also very interesting. Now, can you afford this car? A lot of people come and ask me, I want to buy this car, I want to buy that car, but can you really afford it? Is the big question. So basically there's a rule of thumb which goes like 24/10. You should be able to pay 20% of the on-road price as a down payment at least. The loan tenure should be maximum 4 years, and the EMI should not be more than 10% of the monthly income. So let's say for example a Swift VXI model, which is the top selling model in the market currently, which is for on-road 7.5 lakhs. You should be able to pay at least 20% of it while buying. That is 1.5 lakhs. The loan amount comes to 6 lakh rupees. You should select not more than 4 years. Now, according to a ROI rate of interest of 8, 4 years tenure, 14,600 is the EMI. So this 14,600 should not exceed 10% of your monthly income. So in short, if you want to buy a Swift Desire VXI model, your salary should be 1.5 lakh rupees per month in order to afford Swift Desire VXI. If your salary is not 1.5 lakh rupees per month, and if the EMI is not turning up to be 10% of your income, that car is not affordable for you. My suggestion would be that buy a second hand car, and if a car is not necessary, do not buy a car, because at the end of the day the car is an liability, because it gives you a lot of costs like insurance, maintenance, tire repairs, and a lot of other costs. It is not an asset at all. It is a very big liability. Only if you are traveling like 50, 40, 60 kilometers a day, only then you actually need a car, or else you don't need a car. Eventually you will be losing out on a lot of money which you can basically invest it somewhere else in a better mutual fund or a better stock if you want to eventually grow your money. Do you have any questions here?
No.
Okay. Okay, so this is also another very interesting. If you wanna, if you're taking a car, if you're taking a home loan for 1 crore at an interest rate of 9% for 20 years, total at the end of the 20 years you pay 2.2 crore rupees to the bank for the loan of 1 crore rupees only. Now I can give you a option where where your house becomes interest free, so you will buy the house for the actual price only. So 1.2 crore rupees can be deducted completely. How is that possible? Let's say for example your 1 crore rupee home loan, okay, you've taken. You should start a equity mutual fund of an SIP for 0.16% of your home loan. So 16,000 rupees should be invested in a equity mutual fund of your choice. Okay, assuming the growth of 12% pre-tax, your total gains in the next 20 years become 1.2 crores. So over here you have paid eventually that money, but at the end of the 20 years you will get 1.2 crore rupees when you withdraw that entire mutual fund, eventually making your house interest free. You've only paid a principal amount of 1 crore rupees, and the other 1.2 crore rupees you've actually got back. But obviously you'll have to invest a little more. But if you're not able to contribute that 0.16% additionally on the over and above the EMI, then I'm sorry, the house is not affordable for you. So we'll just take a pause over here to address some questions and end the session today. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And the next session we will speak about it later, where we'll speak about equity and the different types of book values and market values, and how to identify different types of shares, and how to clone. Let's say for example, if you want to copy the market strategy and copy the strategy of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala or some other big players in the market, you can all of that, or you can do that. How to invest in foreign stock exchange, all of these points. Derivative markets will also be covered in the next session, some small cases to be discussed. So all of these things will basically be discussed in the next session. For now we'll take a pause and we'll end the session here. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Hello.
I don't have any questions.
Great, yeah. So let me know. You can Slack me also if you guys have any other questions. Let me know. I'll be available, and I hope I added some value to to all of you. And if you have any dedicated personal questions, about some particular stock or some particular targeted fund which you need to ask me, I'll be available. You can ping me on Slack. Okay then. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you, Krishna.
Yeah, bye bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.